So we bring you Mori every last Tuesday. And all the way from Niger, we have Zama every last Wednesday. And from Benin, we bring you Fongbe every last Thursday of the month. Don't miss this new edition. Stay even more connected, more engaged, and more informed. WADR 94.9 FM, Dakar, promoting dialogue.
WADR. You can listen to us on 94.9 FM in Dakar through our website www.wadr.org.
Citizens Hour on West Africa Democracy Radio. It's your time to speak.
Hello there, and thank you for joining us on this edition of Citizens Hour, your democratic citizens engaging and current affairs radio program. We are coming to you live from West Africa Democracy Radio, 94.9 FM in Dakar. We're also streaming live online at wadr.org, YouTube, and Facebook. I am Imo Edet, and we thank you for finding time to join us on this edition of the program that brings you conversations that center on accountability, justice, and the voices of ordinary people. On today's program, Nigeria is once again entering a politically charged period as political parties, candidates, and interest groups begin positioning themselves ahead of the next electoral cycle. For many Nigerians, however, elections are about much more than political rallies, campaign promises, and party slogans. They are about the economy, jobs, security, education, healthcare, corruption, infrastructure, and the quality of leadership citizens experience every day. Well, as the political season gathers momentum, questions are already popping. What issues should dominate the national conversation? Are political parties offering credible solutions to Nigeria's challenges? How much influence do citizens have in shaping the political agenda? And for our second topic, we turn to Liberia, which is facing an increasingly serious challenge from drug trafficking and abuse, which concerns about the availability of illicit drugs, their impact on young people, and the growing sophistication of the networks involved in the trade. But the question goes beyond the siege of drugs or the arrests of individual dealers. Behind every shipment and distribution network are people who finance, transport, protect, and profit from the trade. Well, these and plenty more, I guess, we'll be looking at and providing answers to these questions. Stay with us. All right, we will begin with our first topic. Nigeria 2027 campaign begins. Will voters demand better governance? Now, as you heard there, we have entered another defining chapter of its democratic journey as 2027 election draws closer. With campaigns now underway, the atmosphere is fully charged with plenty promises. There will be lots of debates in the coming days and competing visions for the nation's future. And for the citizens, the stakes are immense. Questions of economic recovery, security, governance, and social cohesion will dominate the political campaign season. Well, beyond party slogans, this moment represents a test of Nigeria's democratic resilience and the power of its people to shape the trajectory of Africa's largest democracy. All right, let's bring on board our guest for this first part of the conversation. Well, joining us both in Abuja, we do have Mr. Jido Joe, a democracy and governance expert. And we also have Mr. Fred Itwa, the group politics editor, The Sun newspaper. Gentlemen, welcome to the program and thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Good morning.
Great. Good to see you, Mr. Fred. I mean, fully clean up. Good shave you have there. And Mr. Ojo, your cap isn't looking bad either. Thank you so much for finding time to join us on the program. Well, I'd like to start with you, Mr. Ojo, where you are. I mean, the campaign seasons have started. We saw what played out in the Osun election, the dramas, the monies that were flying and all of that. Do you think voters will any chance have that opportunity to demand better governance?
I wish so. It's an assumption that people will have a chance to demand for better government. But sometimes, much as there is a popular saying that if wishes were horses, beggars will ride. So if we are to wish, perhaps, and our wish comes to pass, then we will have realized something significant. But from what happened in Ocean last week, it would seem like it's just a game of chess, as we could see that in spite of the killings of over 30 people, the Punch newspaper today is putting the amount spent between our core party and APC at 100 billion. Davido, the music concert, 110 billion was spent by APC. His father said 60 billion was spent by APC, and the vote was going for as much as 10,000 naira. We do not know who to believe among all of this, but if it's a purchased victory, procured victory, can you in good conscience say that these people will serve the interests of the people when they get to power? Because I saw a discussion where one of the governors, I think a governor in Nigeria this week, was saying that his salary is 503,000 naira per month, and that the permanent secretary, I think it's Delta State Governor Overwori, who said his salary as a governor is 503,000, and that his permanent secretary earns 900,000, which means the perm secretary earns more than him. But if your salary is actually 503,000, why do you want to spend billions to secure that seat?
Yeah.
No, to even secure the seat in the first place. Because I don't see how you can recoup 500,000 in times 48 months. That will not be up to 1 billion. So if you have to spend and sell your property, sell your estate to contest election, and then you get into office, it then means that one thing is very clear. If that money comes from you, you are going to be looking for ways to recoup your investment. And that's where there will be no development, there will be no good governance, because your preoccupation will be how to recoup that huge sums of money
Which you've spent.
that you have spent
Exactly.
to procure your electoral victory.
Mm.
And that is the worrisome part for me. Campaign started, in fact, Umar,
Yes.
in case you don't know, this morning, Bayo Nonuga, the presidential spokesperson, has released the presidential campaign council list to the public.
Okay.
It's about who is who in the APC that are conglomeration. And I tell you, APC cannot spend less than trillions for this forthcoming election with the kind of very robust, very comprehensive, very the kind of mobilization they intend to do in the next 150 days, this campaign will last for 150 days. So you ask yourself, is all this money going to come from Bola Tinubu's pocket? The answer is no.
Well, let me hold your thought there, Ms. Ojo, and cross over to Mr. Itwa. Mr. Itwa, I'm sure he's itching to add to this. With all the challenges we have seen in Nigeria, from insecurity to unemployment to the cost of living, Nigerians are groaning by the day. What do you think should be the biggest issues citizens should be paying attention to as this political season kicks off?
Okay, well, there are a number of issues which Mr. Ojo has rightly identified. But for the purpose of this discussion, the Constitution is clear on the primary mandates of any government, which is the welfare and security of the people. So if you meet some of their basic needs, which by our standard, they are very ordinary, you won't have any issue. If you can travel from Abuja to Benin City, for instance, you can afford to feed your family in a day, have access to quality healthcare that is affordable, have access to basic housing arrangements, if it's mortgage or refinancing, whichever one, they have just decent source of living. No one will ask for anything. But fortunately, beside the air that we breathe in Nigeria, almost every other thing we consume or rely on is provided by the people, from your personal security to water supply, private schools, everything, even the road in front of your house, sometimes you have to fix. So, in this aspect, no governments at the national or subnational levels have done significantly well. What they have done are just something that ordinary, nothing extra. And we're hoping that this campaign would kind of bring to the fore some of these issues. We top among them is insecurity, which no one is isolated anymore. Then you have the raging poverty level that has placed Nigeria as the poverty capital of the world, which is not a good record. Then we have serious unemployment, which is one of the highest in the world. We have the issue of out of school children, Manjiri, which over time will translate to something we cannot manage if not done. Then our overbloated debt, which is rising every day. So a number of key issues that would dominate discussion. So at the end of the day, if you accumulate all of them, it forms the thrust of what we call good governance. Right now, that is missing. But whether or not the theory lady candidate will be able to play around these issues is what I don't know. That of Tinubu will be a bit easier. He's going to run on his own record to tell the people, this is what I have done. I will be judged based on that if the elections are free and fair. But for Peter Obi and Atiku Abubakar, they will have to convince the people that they can do better than what we have now, or do better than the reforms currently being backed on by the current administration for Nigerians to believe them. But from the signs and indications so far, it will be a very tall order for it to unseat the current president, a very big one. The clearest chance they had was 3 years ago when there was a transition from one administration to another. But the opposition, as strong as they were, couldn't form a coalition. The man from outside was able to wriggle his way into power. Now that he's there, with 31 state governors and
aligning
the
in his
resources
path.
that they command, it will take the grace of God to remove that man from office.
Let me
I'm
cross
being
over.
sincere, but other people will argue differently.
Yeah, well, let me bring Mr. Joe in here. I mean, as we typically know, politicians will go about making several promises. But how do you think some of these issues that even Mr. Ito has mentioned should feature in the political campaigns?
Well, they will say what they want, but what I think Nigerians need to do, which medium like yours should also canvass for, is for people to take interest in what they are saying and archive it, document and archive it, so that we can remind them. Today, I agree with Fred. Tinubu can be benchmarked against what he said he would do in the renewed hope agenda, the 8 pillars renewed hope agenda. And they are saying to us, I read the Bayo Onanuga's press statement this morning, that they have delivered on their campaign promises.
But
Will
have they
Nigerians
really?
agree? Well, that's what they are claiming. They said that's what they want to trumpet. That's why, you need to read Onanuga's statement, that they have delivered on their campaign promise and they need to trumpet it to the people, which is why they are saying, we are going to be having a robust campaign council. But it is for people to now track from now on, at least let's track 3 out of the 19 presidential candidates. What is Peter Obi saying? What is Atiku Abubakar saying? What is Tinubu saying? Let's visit their websites. If they have a blueprint or roadmap, Atiku Abubakar just released his own couple of days back where he said he is going to return us back to the era of subsidy days. He's going to return subsidy on petrol. Now, that is something for us to start chewing. Is it doable? Is it just saying it for the purpose of winning votes? Because as we know, politicians campaign in poetry and deliver in prose. You know that very much, Imam.
Yes.
They will campaign in poetry, but they will deliver in prose. when the time comes, they start saying, I didn't know the problem was this deep rooted. Let me shock you. There is a party, ADP, who has a female presidential candidate. Did you know what the female presidential candidate promised? I heard it was a wrong attribution. That she was going to deliver 25,000 megawatts of electricity in 100 days in office. Are you not laughing? Somebody said she would deliver 25,000 megawatts of electricity in her first 100 days in office. I said, I hope people are not just turning this campaign to a circus of sorts. Because I know that Atiku Abubakar, for instance, is very desperate. He has said this is the last time he will contest election. He's already in his 80s. He has committed to one term. Now he's saying that, I will return subsidy. And of course, he knew why he's saying that, because he knows that that will possibly resonate with average citizen. And they will say, if he can do it, then we'll buy fuel for less amount than we are currently buying it. But the question everybody should be asking is, how do you then intend to get money to run government? Because even under Buhari, we are running deficit budget. Under Tinubu, we are running deficit budget. The Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of Economy, Taiwo Ejele, just told us that in 3 years, they've been able to save 15 trillion from subsidy saving. 15 trillion that should have been used to subsidize fuel. But Nigerians are asking, where is this 15 trillion? What have you done with it? That you are even borrowing much more than before. You saved 15 trillion, and yet you are still topping our borrowing. So these are things that should agitate our minds as ordinary citizens, as well-informed citizens. You people as fourth estate of the realm needs to throw up agenda setting. We are not just interested in I will deliver 250 roads in 100 days. We want to know, how do you intend to fund it? Where do you intend to fund it? Are you going to do PPP, public-private partnership, or is it the budget of the state you want to use? How feasible is what you are promising us? So these are the kind of things that citizens, voters, electorate should be angling for, not just to just say that them. We need to document and archive what they are saying. They are going to be using the social media space. They are going to be using the orthodox media. You are going to be seeing the billboards. You are going to be seeing policy document, policy brief. You are going to be seeing their agenda. We need to document and archive all of this so that at the end of whoever wins among the top three, we can start to track the performance from day one. What did he say he would do in 100 days? What did he say?
I'd like to ask Mr. Fred, Mr. Joe, if you don't mind, I'd like to ask Mr. Fred. I think either you or him talked about the state of opposition and not being coordinated. And I want to know, what is the position of the opposition parties? And what do you think should be done? A coalition of some sort? Or one party coming up on everybody supporting? What really is the state of opposition in Nigeria right now as we speak?
But any form of coalition ought to have happened before the primaries. They ought to have sat down, especially Atiku Abubakar, who incidentally is not favored by two factors. One, he doesn't have age on his side. He's in his 80s. He may look strong, but you know that an 80-year-old man does not have the energy to run a complex country like Nigeria. We saw that from Buhari clearly. And secondly, the zoning arrangement does not favor him. This should be his sixth attempt at the presidency. Then Obi, on the flip side, may appear to be the right person, but also making a promise that we know if he wins, he will not honor at the end of the day.
What are the promises?
He's committed to a single term, which I know is I won't call him a liar, but it's something I know he will nudge on. Jonathan allegedly did that, but he went against what he already promised and ran for a second term, although he did not win that. So opposition as of today does not have the financial muscle, the needed collaboration, the regional reach, as well as the structure needed to win a presidential election. Yes, there will be some pockets of senatorial, if they are lucky, maybe one or two governorship seats, House of Assembly, and the rest. I'm saying this because 3 years ago, when we had the last election, some of us covered it from the northern flank. And we discovered that in so many states, like Bauchi State, Kano, and a good number of northern states, the then Labour Party didn't even have agents. In most of the polling units, they were never aware that Obi was running. So if, as popular as he was, with the kind of support from the new demographics, the Gen Zs and first-time voters, he couldn't get the needed number of votes to win. Now the APC has put his house in order, is more united and brutal, and is going to lock up areas where it lost last year, particularly Lagos and the FCT. It will be God's attempt at the impossible for them to unseat a man, unless a miracle will happen. But miracles don't happen in vacuums if you do not prepare your own part. That's my challenge with the opposition. But if they're able to perform a miracle in the next 150 days, which I doubt they can not, maybe something will happen. I'm saying that because I think on the 30th of this month, they will have a summit of all opposition parties where an attempt will be made for them to present a single candidate to stand
Do you think
against
Atiku should at this point take a bow and allow a new candidate to come on board?
Common sense will tell a man who should be playing with his grandchildren that has no business running for the presidency of the country. He's been running in the last 32 years. 32 years, where in some African countries or countries across the globe, people within that age range are attempting to lead their countries. Whereas a man of that age is still trying, without success, of course, to rule a country that has moved beyond his fate. But of course, it's not like a career for him to attempt every 4 years and see how he can remain perpetually relevant within the political ecosystem. But I think at this time, if it means well for Nigeria and for the unity of this country that promotes rotational presidency, he has no business being on the ballot, sincerely.
Well,
but of course, that's not for him and his followers to determine.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Jide, recently, early this week, we saw the ruling party or the ruling government launch a 5-year security plan. And of course, we know security remains one of Nigeria's major concern. Do you see this as a campaign trick?
It is. And every other thing they are doing, not just the security plan, the expansion of military divisions from 8 to 12, the improvement in the welfare of our armed forces, where the minimum wage has also been doubled for some category of men, and also the expansion, the recruitment order of 25,000, is it 250,000 policemen that President Tinubu has said should be recruited, alongside with increase in the number of recruits for forest guards. All of these are meant to bring under control the saddening and heartbreaking insecurity in Nigeria. And that seems to be working, because then we now see a new verve and zeal and enthusiasm on the part of Nigerian security forces to rein in banditry and kidnapping. And if they can sustain the tempo during and after the forthcoming election, then the opposition will not be able to demarcate the ruling party and create fear in the minds of people that the incumbent could not secure the country. So it's part of this campaign strategy. All of this coming on the eve of election is part of the strategy. The U.S.-Nigeria collaboration the capacity building of Nigerian armed forces, the seeking of partnership with countries like Turkey, France, Russia, and US. They are all geared towards ensuring that the issue of insecurity is brought under significant control. And if they can follow through with that, like Fred said earlier on, in fact, all this whole campaign can be subsumed under two things. Section 14, subsection 2B of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria says, security and welfare of citizens shall be the primary purpose of government. So, if you are able to secure the country, rein in all these terrorist attacks, unknown gunmen, Lakurawa, the ISWAP, the Boko Haram of this world, you put them out of business, and people can travel smoothly across the country without fear of being kidnapped. People who are on farms can go to farm and do their thing and make profit on their farm produce without let or hindrance by some bandits to tax them out of existence. Then Nigeria will definitely see that we need to reward this incumbent with a re-election. But unless that is done, this will be a serious campaign issue, particularly from the opposition.
Yeah.
And I do agree that the rank of opposition is divided as we speak, and they do not pose a serious threat to the incumbent, beyond the fact that what we may see is high voter apathy if the situation does not improve. People would rather not vote than to go and vote. I know
That's something to be worried about.
I know many Southerners will not vote Atiku Abubakar because it is a belief that it is the turn of the South to have a second term of so that they can be at par with what Buhari has spent.
Well, Mr. Jide, do you think the ordinary party members will really have that much influence in selecting the candidate? I mean, Mr. Fred talked about it earlier. It may perhaps be an unanimous decision by party delegates to just pick someone instead of listening to the people who they truly want.
We have gone past that stage, Imo. The candidates, the parties have had their primaries. The nominations have been made. They just concluded the uploading of their candidates, and the substitution window has also closed on August 18. So it's as good as saying that we already know who are going to be running in 2027. And that's why even the G100 summit that is scheduled for the end of this month, I don't think it will achieve the desired result. Atiku Abubakar is fixated on running in 2027. And himself and his followers are already pushing the agenda that if there is anybody that should drop out of the race, it should be Peter Obi. And the Peter Obi, being propelled by the obedient movement, are saying that if you are not on the ballot, don't think we will support you. We are not going to support you as a running mate to anybody. And in any event, what they will do will be tantamount to just going ahead and say, I'm out of the race, vote for my opponent, when INEC will have printed the ballot paper with your party logo on it. Because the time for substitution has ended. So if they cannot agree before primaries and before the end of substitution, if you now say it's like what happened in Osun last week. 3-4 days to the election, PDP candidate said he's dropping out of the race and endorsing Governor Adeleke. APN candidate said he's dropping out of the race and then endorsing Adeleke. But that same week was why INEC had to go and reprint ballot paper in millions, because a court order says SDP should be on the ballot paper. But you know that there are times for everything. There is time for everything, rather. So if you have your chance to withdraw from the race so that you don't confuse the voters, you decided not to withdraw from the race at that time. INEC has now printed ballot paper. You are not going to be explaining to the people, I'm not contesting again. Go and vote for my opponent. And they still see your party logo on the ballot paper. That is going to be a good for both. So I think they missed that point. But to say that anything can still be done in terms of stepping down and stepping up, that window has closed. They will have to be explained, and they will explain tire to their followers.
Mr. Fred, is the obedient movement still alive? You mentioned young people earlier. Will they still have that interest in coming out? Otherwise, we may see a further declining figure of people who will come out to vote in January.
We'll see that, but patterns surfaced in 2023 during the governorship elections. According to our next timetable, the presidential often comes up before that of the governorship and state houses of assembly. Now, after the presidential election, which obviously made to be very popular, and he won in states that hitherto we thought were strongholds of the APC. During the governorship election, we discovered that there was voter suppression, especially in Lagos states, in Rivers, and in other states where during the presidential election, Obi did very well. That may likely be a factor, if not checked, with the rhetoric we are seeing, will play up again. And if that suppression happens and the people are unwilling to stand their ground, defend their vote, and insist that they be allowed to vote for whoever they so desire, that would likely affect that enthusiasm we saw among obedient movements 3 years ago. Some of them were disillusioned after the election, who felt their vote did not count, despite the fact that they imagined that they won, but Supreme Court said otherwise, that the current president won, and with that judgment, everything was settled. But if he's able to revive that base, if he's able to get that national appeal, that support, and play any magic he can probably muster within the next 150 days, we may see something close to what we had in 2023. I also have a good number of persons within the rank and file of the APC who are very, very angry with the outcome of the last primaries. The Electoral Act makes it a bit impossible for them to openly defect and move to other parties. So some of them will stay within the party and play the spoiler. I can tell you about that. If you talk to them behind the scene, they will tell you what their plans are. Some senators who were denied return tickets, some rep members who suffered the same fate, House of Assembly who did same, and some persons who did never were not allowed to participate in the primaries. Governorship, for instance, a governor just woke up, anointed a successor because the president allowed them to determine who will get what. They emerged without that consensus arrangement, which is in the constitution. Then the other side is that some cases are in courts which have not come to the public knowledge, being filed by aggrieved aspirants of the ruling APC, challenging the emergence of some persons, governorship, Senate, and the rest of them. And if they follow the letters of what the current Electoral Act spells out, there'll be trouble for the APC, because it is clear that in the absence of direct primaries, that consensus must follow certain criteria, that the candidates or aspirants involved must agree before a consensus arrangement is adopted as what should be the general norm. But in almost all the states, governors did not follow that. They just sat in government house, gave a figure, came up with ridiculous number of people that voted during the direct primaries, and INEC was compelled to accept them because they were also restricted largely by the new Electoral Act. So if someone goes to court on that strength and argue convincingly with evidence, we will see a repeat of what happened in Zamfara State, where APC, accused of that, what I'm trying to explain, lost that. We also saw a repeat of that. In the last election in Oshun,
Yeah.
the man who emerged was not the consensus arrangement of leaders of the party in the state. The former governor, Yetola, from what we gathered, singularly picked the man and imposed him on them. So people who were within the party but did not come out openly to complain played the spoiler and sabotaged his chances. This man they are trying to suspend right now, this man from Ife, former APC national secretary and a former senator, former deputy governor, I've forgotten his name. He spoiled. Missionary, yes. Missionary he played the spoiler game, and Ife was not won by the APC. And for a man who is so much on ground, that ought to have been a pass mark for him. And I also recall when we met him before the elections, one of the things he was told is that he did not go to school. I could not even fill his form to run for the election. On that basis, was never allowed to purchase the form or participate in the primary process. So a number of issues will come up. Like I said, the presidential election may likely be a one-way ticket for the APC, very likely, unless a miracle happens. But in the other contests, I don't see that miracle happening because you will run on your own strength. And with what we saw in Oshun, where elections were almost uploaded in real time, people were able to follow elections as they happened at the polling units and collation centers. If INEC is able to replicate that and improve on what they did in Oshun, people will cry on that very day, I can show you.
So
It
do you
means
think this may happen in the main
people.
election, the real-time uploading of results?
If INEC is able to replicate that and improve on what they did in Oshun, where people can monitor their votes, they can say, okay, in last 1 hour, this is the number of votes from this senatorial district. A lot of shocker will happen.
But don't you think it may
Like
be different being a national election?
It will not be. No, that's what I'm saying. It depends on INEC. If, for instance, I vote in my polling unit and I have the code to monitor that on the IRF, and I follow it through to see how my candidate is performing, it will be difficult for you to do any manipulation because whatever you read verbally or manually, it has to tally with what
is
INEC uploaded on his IRF. So if that one is adopted, which I'm hoping INEC will do, it will play the needed magic and we'll have something very close to a free and fair election, like we've not had in a very long time.
Ms. Ojo, how prepared is INEC in this IRF development? Do you see that happening in a national election of this magnitude which we have? Yes, it may have been a bit successful in Oshun. Can that also be replicated nationally?
I guess, yes. If they want to do it, if the political will to do the right thing is there. I had it on good authority that INEC has received 500 billion out of about 800 and something billion that it's requested for the 2027 election. So money is not their problem. They must have factored in what needed to be done, the upgrades that needed to be done, the improvement in software that needed to be done. Don't forget in 2023, they actually, for the first time, deployed IRF for a national election. It was unprecedented all along. They were only using it in by-elections and off-cycle governorship election. And so it was the first time they deployed it at a national level. And except for that each that they claimed happened to the presidential result, which was delayed in uploading. For the Senate, House of Reps, and State House of Assembly governorship, they didn't have any problem with uploading of those ones. So I don't think, given the fact that they have 4 years to now prepare better, to learn from whatever mistake, that's if it's not a deliberate act of sabotage. And I'm giving them that benefit of doubt because I don't want to join the conspiracy theorists to say, oh, it was an act of sabotage, they deliberately delayed or did not upload on time because they want to change figures. The bottom line is that something has changed. Now, Electoral Act in Section 60 had already recognized IREF and BVAS.
So it has come to stay as it is, whether INEC likes it or not.
It's no longer discretionary for INEC. and it is now tenable in court. And that's why I was at a program with Young Africa where we have some ANEC directors, and they told us what they are even doing. That now the result that is being uploaded, they are doing what they call virtual transmission of results, in a way that whatever results that is generated from polling unit cannot be manipulated or altered, because they will have a slight period of verification before it goes on the portal. So you cannot just, and they are also putting georeferencing. So if you are in Abuja,
so it knows the location.
So the georeferencing means you cannot even leave that place to go and upload elsewhere. You understand?
Yeah.
So because the argument in 2023 was that, oh, some people went to their hotel rooms and was trying to upload, or that they were able to change the figures, that there were multiple uploads. This time, INEC has fine-tuned in such a way, and we have director of ICT at that event, which run us through what the innovations that they are trying to do. So I don't think, I want to give them benefit of that they will be able to upload results in a timely manner. But we must also err on the side of caution. Do you realize that this thing will need internet? It's internet-based.
Yeah.
And INEC does not have any registered telecoms company of its own. So it has to depend on the telcos that are independent of it. So it's one of the exogenous factors that INEC will be relying on the goodwill and full cooperation of these telecommunication companies. Because if they fail to cooperate, we know how these things are. I'm talking to you virtually now, but assuming that in my neck of wood here, the base station is not fueled, I will not be able to link up with you.
Exactly.
Do you get? So INEC is in full control of the telecoms. The same way INEC is not in full control of the vendors that provide election day logistics.
All right, we'll be rounding off. We'll be rounding off now, Mr. Ojo. Just your last thought in 30 seconds. I mean, if you were to speak directly to Nigerian voter today, what would you tell them to look beyond the political, as the political season begins, and beyond the messages these politicians will be telling them?
I will say, monitor what they are saying. There are 19 of them. You don't have to bother with all the 19. There are 4 frontline candidates. Monitor, document, archive what they are saying, so that any one of the top three that wins from the day of inauguration, we start to also hold them, him or her, accountable to what they committed to during the campaign period. And then we should also work to ensure issue-based campaign. Because unless we drive that conversation for them, what we will see in many of the rallies is just hiring of musicians, dancing with Ashwebi, and then going back to their basics.
Mr. Fred,
to drive that as media and civil society.
Mr. Fred, your last thought on this. I mean, same question for you.
Well, my appeal is to INEC. We can make all the preparations. If INEC does not do its job properly to safeguard our votes, all our efforts will come to naught. So my appeal for them is that whatever you did in Oshun that worked, improve on that and replicate it across the country, so that people for the first time can have something close to what they had in 1993, which after 33 years is still adjudged as the fairest election we've had in Nigeria. That's my appeal.
Indeed. Mr. Fred Itwa, the Group Politics Editor of the Sun newspaper, and Mr. Jido Ojo, a democracy and governance expert. Thank you, sirs, for your time on the program.
Thank you for having me. God bless.
Keep safe and stay blessed.
Thank you, sir. Well, if you're just joining us on radio or streaming on YouTube and Facebook, this is Citizens Hour, coming to you from West Africa Democracy Radio 94.9 FM. In the second half of our show, we will shift our focus to Liberia, where the fight against drug trafficking has entered a new and politically sensitive phase following the arrest and charging of former Vice President Joel Howard Taylor. Recall Howard Taylor, who served as Liberia's Vice President from 2018 to 2024, was stopped at Roberts International Airport on August 19 while attempting to leave the country. Well, Liberian authorities subsequently charged her with drug trafficking, money laundering, criminal conspiracy, and several other offenses as part of an investigation into an alleged transnational narcotics network. Well, 3 foreign nationals have been charged in absentia in connection with the investigation. The allegations against Howard Taylor are serious, but they remain allegations and must be tested through Liberia's judicial process. Well, before we continue, let's take a listen to what some Liberians would have to say about this.
If you ask me 170 times, I will tell you that the police has played a very brilliant role in this whole thing by preventing the former VP from traveling, because I think they have gotten the necessary information to, move after this case. And with this, we also want to say thanks to every Liberian who have been coordinating in the process, and to even the former VP for appearing at the Liberia National Police headquarters. Unfortunately, it did not go her way. Now, we're just looking forward that after her medical examination, the court can also move on with this process to see what would be the outcome. Whether Madam Joe Howard Taylor will go at the Monrovia Central Prison, or will she be freed? There are people who are responsible for importing drugs. Where are they? We are looking for them now. And now the law is moving forward by not looking at people based on the status, that anyone who is involved can also be prosecuted. If you can see a former VP today is behind bar or is under detention because of this, that tells that there is a step we are making. We just, look forward to see if they have all of the necessary evidence to prosecute, the former VP. At this point, we want to say all Liberians should stay aside from this whole thing with politics. Political parties will not help us. Let's go after those who have been preventing individuals who have been importing drugs, because they have been causing a very serious problem to our country.
I'm Philip Norito Jr. and I join you from my residence in Baja Center, Tomenberg, Bomi County. As per the charges against former Vice President, former First Lady, former Senator of Bomi County, Chief Madam Dr. Councilor Joel Howard Taylor, it's just a measure and a political bluff. These people are not serious. There are people who work with the government. For example, the drug cartel people named the president's son Jojo. He denied that he was not with the people. The vice president was seen with someone who is directly linked to the drug cartel as suspect in picture and what have you. These people are not being prosecuted. They are being dragged to court. You go and take Joel Howard Taylor, of very resounding woman in Liberian history. I mean, this is just a measure. They try to clamp down opposition to sway the Liberian people, but they can't make it, because it is crystal clear now in Liberia that the government have failed. So Madam Howard Taylor will be free. It's about time that the opposition bloc amalgamate and conglomerate and clamp down hard on these people, because they don't mean business.
This is a serious matter, and I think all of us, there's a need for us to not jump into conclusion as to whether these charges are true or not. And what the court need also to do, labeling the charges are one thing, but it should be evidence-based. It should not be done through emotion, because Liberia, our country, is at a crossroad, because who knows? The next government may be coming, and all of these arrests that are coming, let's consider transparency and accountability in all of what we do.
Well, you had voices of some Liberians reacting to the latest development on that drug boss. Now, the question many are asking is, if a former senior government official of that caliber can become the subject of a major narcotics investigation, what does this tell about the depth of the drug networks operating in Liberia? Can authorities genuinely dismantle the financiers facilitators, and political or institutional connections behind the trade, or would investigation stop at a few high-profile arrests? Well, let's get neck deep into this conversation as we bring on board our guest. Joining us from Monrovia, we do have Adama Dempster. He is a prominent human rights activist. Mr. Dempster, thank you so much for your time and welcome to the program.
Yes, good morning, Emma, and of course, good to be with you. I don't know, my video is kind of
all right
crapping, but you can hear me by audio.
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you. Thank you for finding time to join us. We'll be joining much later by our correspondent Abraham Parker, who I think should be online now to also bring us the latest update on this matter. But while we wait for Abraham Parker to connect, Mr. Dempster, thank you again for your time. I mean, what is the political significance of a former vice president of this nature being arrested and charged in a major narcotics investigation?
I mean, quite frankly, thanks for the invite. It's good to be, on the show this morning. And of course, the topic is fascinating. And I think it is important we have this conversation. And with the recent arrests and charges that have been put forward against the former vice president, someone who comes from the popular opposition political party, and of course, Hall Husband, the former president of Liberia, Charles Taylor Party, NPP, and it's sent a huge signal right now. And there is debate and conversation in the corridor of Liberia, of course, both on social media and of course on around the region and internationally. So first of all, there are a lot of concerns as to whether Madam Taylor, a prominent woman leader in our region, could be involved with such, transnational business trade. And it has security implication, it has political implication, but it also has personal implication that has to do with her reputation as well. But what is, of concern right now is that the government of Liberia has intensified its role in cracking down on drugs trade. And in the process of that, we are hearing, and the U.S. Embassy has confirmed that they are supporting the government of Liberia in this regard. So, with reference to that, I think all situations remain constant. We are looking to seeing the charges that have been leveled against her, how strong they are, the evidence that will be brought, because these are all important in the matter that has to do with law in terms of defense. So the political nature right now is that it has a great stamp on the opposition sector, and they are grappling with how to respond and know there are threats for protests from the opposition CDC. There are other opposition leaders that have been jumping in at the security offices, the police. And of course, we know that ahead of her being turned over to the the court system, there was a report of her health situation that have come up, and she currently undergoing medical treatment at a local hospital in Liberia. But overall, the political climate right now is kind of, a challenge with a key member coming from the opposition being charged in connection to drug trade. Is something that is mind-blowing. It's something that no individual can just digest. I know people are trying to accuse the government of political witch hunt. These are the conversations we're hearing right now. But until we can get to the balance of it, for us from the human rights and legal background, we say let the law take its course, let there be transparency and accountability in the process. And if an individual is accused, they are presumed innocent until otherwise proven in the competent code of law. So those are things that we are actually pushing for right now. But on the political side, we are hearing a whole lot that has to do with witch hunt. And I think we still want to see a transparent process. So I
right.
can say that from the initial analysis, these are things I just wanted to talk about.
All right, we've been joined now by our Monrovia correspondent, Abraham Parker, who is alive. Parker, thank you so much for finding time to join us despite your busy nature, and welcome again. Well, what are the words that are flying on the streets as we speak?
Thank you, Imo, and let's say good morning to those listening. Well, there has been different views, most likely from citizens. The name Joelle, being a former first lady from 1997 up to 2003. 2005, she got elected as a senior senator and got re-elected in 2014 up until 2017 and 2018, where she got elected along with former President George Weah as a vice president of Liberia. So, well, the news, as it stands, of course, has taken people by surprise. And it is obvious that you will have divided views from Liberians. She hails from the central region of the country, and citizens, a significant portion of that of citizens from that region have we've been hearing from them. We've spoken with them, and the views is divided, but a significant portion has pledged its support for a free and fair trial. When this incident occurred, Liberians woke up to the news when she was, traveling to Ghana, and Liberians woke up to this news that is seen to be disturbing. But again, since it happened, people from the political side, like the opposition community, they have not accepted it as it should be as it relates to the legal process. Some have made some remarks even before she was taken to the police station. There was this release from the opposition bloc, the major opposition bloc, turning the entire process as a witch hunt. So of course we have a divided view for now, Emo.
All right, Parker, thank you for that. Well, Mr. Dempster, I mean, just before Parker ended, he mentioned witch hunt, and it was also a word you also brought up during your initial response. But do you think this is a witch hunt if it is for a just cause?
I mean, for me, I mean, I can put it that way because the evidence of the war against drugs is something that is an evidence of what happened in Liberia. It's a reality of what we're experiencing on the ground. So under those circumstances that one will want to be selective. If there are evidence that point to certain individual, regardless of their status of position or political influence, they should be called. That's where the law is. And it is the law that will determine, whether someone is guilty or not. So there should not be a mindset or a mentality that certain people cannot be called when there is a trace or there is a link to them involved with drug-related action. So if the national security apparatus that we all are looking up to and working with regional counterparts are moving towards investigation that will point to certain individual, we think it is expedient to bring those people before the law. So this is where the issue of innocence is given, and the due process is accorded to oneself to be able to come and answer. So I wouldn't want to go down that line, on the issue of witch hunt, except that there is a mentality and the perceived notion in the minds of certain people that certain people should not be called or certain people should not be mentioned when there is a trace or link to their involvement into the drugs-related matter allegedly. So we don't want to go that line.
Yeah.
What we continue to see from the human rights community is a transparency process, a transparent process that will lead to, fair trial. The investigation should be, credible and should not be biased in any form or manner. and the process should be handled with due diligence so that it does not appear, to kind of demonize any individual or target any individual that is not necessary. So we don't want to give room for that conversation that has to do with witch hunt. We experienced in time past, there was a 100 million cocaine bust in Liberia, and we saw that whole process just went in thin air. There was no single accountability process. We know there was a court process, but they acquitted all of the guys who were suspected of being connected to the drug. And after those guys were released, they left the country the very day they were released from prison. So seeing the level of force, actions, commitment that is being put to the fight against drugs right now, I think it's necessary that we all support the government to make sure that the fight against drugs is done in a transparent way. But we don't want to go down that line that has to do with witch hunt. No one is above the law. This is where in June, that was June 26, 2026, I issued a statement when I was asked to serve as a keynote speaker at the observance of International Drugs Day that there should be no sacred cow, regardless of your influence, regardless of your status, political, or whoever you are. Once you are linked to the issue of drugs, the law should take its course.
Well, Parker, before I let you go, what evidence do you think or you've seen the Liberian authorities presented so far?
Well, like I said, the news it took everyone by surprise. So as the stands, as per the charges against the former vice president, so far there hasn't been evidence to show to the Liberian people. In fact, as in one of the charges, they said she transported drugs on lessened drugs. So if you will want to look at that, it tells that the former vice president, as per just that one, it tells that she was actually transporting drugs in the country, and as it relates to some distribution as well. But the government, when during the presentation of the charges to the Liberian people, the Minister of Justice, who is the Attorney General of the country of the Republic of Liberia, didn't go further to say, okay, these are evidence we have. We've just heard in the corridor, sometimes some of the political figures, the political figures attached to these kinds of conversation, we have to sway the minds of the people on the variant of the on their various social media pages. So this is one thing that the government hasn't done, but I'm very well sure they said they have overwhelming evidence. Now I will take you back a bit to the Arson case. The government, to the Ministry of Justice, said they have overwhelming evidence. Of course, since that Arson case, that case is still before the court, and it is just the way it is. So this is it is from this backdrop that civil society leaders in the country are calling on the government to institute measures that you will have a fair and impartial trial. Because if you say you have overwhelming evidence, according to the Minister of Justice, they've been working with the FBI, the DEA from the United States. They are agents in the country who are aiding the investigation. So that particular statement alone, and if the opposition community wants to press forward with the understanding that you have agents from the United States, some foreign partners aiding the investigation, it creates a room that it tells that, okay, then it tells that the government has credible information to prosecute the former vice president. Well, all of us are saying this is just a charade to weaken the opposition community. Like you will see some guys within the ruling establishment will have to take to their social media pages to convince the opposition that yes, you people said that we should conduct an investigation, bringing to book all those who are involved. Now the government is doing it. Why are you crying fireplace? So that's a conversation so far. So I think on the line of evidence, it will be in the court. So after the Madam shall have been forwarded to court, it is rested now on the shoulders of the government to present their evidence in court, because they said they have overwhelming evidence. So those evidence that they have, it is obvious that they will have to present it in the court, and they will not have to, for now present it in the public. Sometimes why it does that, it undermines the confidence of the judiciary system. You will see people will start to discuss it from different angle of the divide, in making sure that they can win politically. But so far, no evidence, and that's one of the things in ordinary citizens. Though the political institutions in our country, like the opposition community, they have turned it to be witch hunt. But ordinary Liberians, this is one thing they've called for. If the Malan is involved, like the government has said, of course she should be prosecuted. And her own political party, the National Patriotic Party, where she served as Senate on the ticket of this as vice president, because they went in coalition with the CDC in 2017. The party issued a statement backing the government's decision for the issue about drugs. So her own political party is backing the government's decision, but again, at a certain point in their line, they want a free and fair trial.
All right. Well, Parker, thank you so much for your time and for bringing us up to speed with the latest development as regard this case. Thank you, Parker. Well, let's continue with Mr. Dempster. What really will it take to dismantle an international narcotics network?
This is huge, and so to dismantle a network that have been long operating in our region, it takes a lot of dimensions, and those dimensions will allow us to learn from other countries, because we know even in other countries that have been heavily pushing and fighting drugs around the world, they may not be successful in all, but there are some considerable efforts that have been, achieved during this process and during this action. And I think Liberia need to step out to learn from some of them. And one has to do with having a robust security operation. And in order to have a robust security operation, there are a number of things that you want to put into place. And those things that you have to put into place, first of all, we look at manpower. But beyond manpower, you also look at technology as well. And some of what we see in other countries that are used to crack down drugs, even on airport, we don't have those sophistication in our country. So that's one area that Liberia will have to move faster to be able to protect the borders, both sea and land, and the airports that have been used for the transportation of these drugs. Is one area that Liberia need to really tackle and strongly put mechanism into place. And another aspect has to do with what do we do in terms of the security apparatus that are involved with the fight against drugs. How compensatory the efforts that have been put into place for them. Because, this is a huge criminal enterprise that has to do with moving money around, Emil. And then if you have securities fighting drugs, what are the wages? What are the benefits? Some of them taking home as a family man or as officers. And this is one area that the government need to really concentrate on, because security officers are lowly paid or given wages in the Republic of Liberia. And if you are paying a salary to the security officer in the tune of $200 monthly, I tell you, in the kind of economy we find ourselves, or a security officer is taking around $250, $300, and then they come across these kind of trades that are mouth blowing in terms of money. You understand they are compromised, because if you go back to some of the action that is taken right now, there are a number of senior police officers, security officers that have been linked to having received bribe, having received, gifts from the cartel, allegedly. So that's one area that need to be fully concentrated around in terms of compensating security officers and then giving them all of the necessary logistics to be able to be on the front line when it comes to fighting drugs. Another aspect has to do with the legal aspect. We need to have a strong legal standing, a legal basis. on how we're going to tackle it and bring an end to the whole drugs trade. And if individuals are accused and they are arraigned before the court or before the judiciary, the evidence that comes from the Ministry of Justice has to be strong enough to be able to convince the judge or jury that we sit on this case to see how best they can be convicted. When every time we go before the court and then don't go with strong evidence, and then we lost the case, it's a win for the cartel. So from a legal perspective, we're talking about accountability and a fair trial. We're talking about due process. All of these have to be in place to be able to make sure that people who are accused and brought before the court, they will have that day in court and they will have fair trial in the process. Another aspect has to do with what do we do? I did talk about the economic dimension that has to do with giving salaries that will be appreciative to officers of the police, the DEA, and other national security apparatus. That is necessary. We cannot leave that out. Another aspect has to do with what are the monitoring systems we have in place. Our borders are poorer. You have pretty close to 100 and some more borders around Liberia that are poorer. You may not have security officers or immigration officers around some of them. People can enter and get out. At our sea level, we do not have a very strong Coast Guard, security structure. We do have a national army, but the security in terms of sea protection, that's one area that Liberia need to invest more to be able to make sure that, because most of the quantity of drugs that is coming, the quantity of drugs may likely come from the sea. So how is it coming on shore? How is it entering into the country? We need to have a strong
Mr.
monitoring
Dempster, let me
system.
just chip in here. I mean, how connected do you think these drug networks operating in Liberia to trafficking networks in countries such as Guinea, Sierra Leone, Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana, Senegal, even in Nigeria?
But if you find out that some of the key individuals that have been arrested, even very close to the 300 plus million recent seizure, the very two gentlemen that have been seized in the custody of the Liberian government, those are foreign national. And I think there's an alleged Colombian and a Spanish. I can go back to the record. So those are not Liberian national. But then going back to the region, we have had a lot of arrests from the Sierra Leone border entry, where the DEA at a certain point of time, they were involved in arresting a lot of trucks that were transporting drugs from Sierra Leone angle to the border that they were being arrested. So it tells you, and coming back to the issue of Nigeria, Guinea, automatically, if you go back, you find out that the dealers in country, some of the dealers that the drugs network or the DEA have arrested also have different national involved. And you do not want to rule out Nigerian being involved. But with the huge quantity of drugs that is currently being questioned, that's being investigated, the two top individuals are foreign nationals, a Colombian and a Spanish, that are in the custody of the government right now. So you tell you that there is no farm or any chemical hub in Liberia that is producing until otherwise is identified. But the drugs and the quantity of drugs and the special drugs that we're talking about, cocaine, those are drugs that are not likely produced in Liberia. So they are coming from overseas. And overseas, from what directly they're coming from, that's one area that the network now, the process of dismantling the network need to investigate to really know where they are coming from. I think that's one of the tasks that the government need to really follow right now to know what it's going to look like. But the kush, there was another aspect of drugs that we refer to as kush and tramadol. Those are drugs that come from the region. So most of the time, Sierra Leone, from the Sierra Leone angle, was where most of the arrests have been, taking place.
All right. Well, I'm being joined in the studio now by our head of news, Abdullah Hassan, to also throw more light into this issue. I mean, the issue of drug is not just a Liberian thing. It goes way beyond West Africa. And of late, we have been reporting this issue, as Mr. Dempster mentioned, the issue of Kush. We've talked about it even on several programs here on West Africa Democracy Radio. And I'm glad that Abdullah is here to also throw add his voice to this talk. Abdullah, thank you so much for your time, and welcome to Citizens Hour. I mean, this is the first time we're having you on Citizens Hour, and it's good to have you. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Mo. Good morning to you and to our listeners out there.
Indeed.
And many thanks to Adama Dempster for joining the program too.
You heard him. He talked about, he gave the networks, the links between Liberia, Sierra Leone, Ghana, Nigeria, Guinea, this vast network. How bad is it, Abdullah, when we see young people who are used as baits and platforms for the distribution of this drug?
It's actually very bad, Imo, to start with. And let me just go back a bit to say that we should recall that in 2024, both Sierra Leone and Liberia announced a state of emergency on drugs. That's how bad it was for these two countries. But looking at it, on a regional level, it's more like a pandemic to say. It's only growing wider because just this week also, on Tuesday also, the Nigerian government, through the drug agency, destroyed drugs, especially cocaine, worth more than $300 million. Senegal also makes record seizure almost every month. The Gambia is struggling with that same issue. And despite the insecurity in the Sahel, the three Sahelian countries, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, also have been identified as a major route according to the UN Drug Office, that's UNODC. So it's very, very bad. And I think looking beyond the trafficking itself, we have to go further to look at some of the social issues that this brings about on people and government. So now there is mounting pressure on health systems because we don't have sufficient psychiatric medical centers, but now you have youth, many of youth who are dying because of this. Many of them are also affected by mental disorders that will need medical treatment. And in addition to that, also, it kind of influences young people today to get involved in criminal activities, part of the reports that we've seen. So
the most popular among them is Kush, and Mr. Dempster also mentioned that. The generation which we have now may not be able to afford cocaine, let's put it that way. But that particular item, Kush, seems to spread even farther than the cocaine. How bad is that also infiltrating into the communities?
It's bad, and essentially so because Adam Adams has said, of course, in Liberia, they do not have a farm. But today, as we speak, the Nigerian government confirmed just 2 weeks ago that there is at least one farm,
cocaine farm
and meth, another brand of synthetic drugs that exists in Nigeria. Now, with the porous borders we have across the sub-region and the different packaging and distribution networks that exist today, it could be by road, it could be by water, by sea, it could be also by air, which was the case with Liberia. The drug seizure was at the Robert International Airport. Our security measures are absolutely very weak. So just having one farm in a country like Nigeria, given the scale, given the size and the manpower, means that no single country is immune.
Well, Mr. Dempster, is Liberia doing enough in prevention, education, and rehabilitation?
So that's one of the areas that I actually wanted to touch on in terms of dismantling the whole network, because what we realize now is that as a result of the drugs trade, the vast majority of the Liberian youth population have been impacted negatively. And the impact is so huge that it have created criminal enterprise within communities where youth carry machetes and they may hijack and attack people and take their belongings from them. And then they also have increased criminality around as well. So, and also have had social impact on them negatively as well, where you have potential youth are no longer useful in society, but they are just involved into behaviors and actions that are continually presenting the youth in a negative form, some of whom we want to talk about. And another aspect has to do with illnesses. The trauma level in the country is high. And of course, that's one area the drugs have actually given birth to, that we think prevention is needed right now. But in the context of prevention, the there has to be a rigorous fight right now by government, like what is going on, a step up a fight to really stop the importation of drugs. Because even if we do go for prevention right now, where we put social mechanism into place, we put medical mechanism into place, and of course, it's catering to the few that are affected right now. And if the drug trade is still going on, we might not be able to achieve anything on prevention. So one of the area of prevention that we want to talk about is that the government had to put all mechanisms into place. That is both regional and international cooperation in terms of intelligence to be able to crack down on the importation of the drugs into the country.
Mr. Dempster,
yes,
because of time, as we round off, I'll just like to throw just one question to you, and maybe if you can keep it brief within 1 minute. I mean, if this investigation eventually establishes that powerful political and business actors were involved in the drug network, what will this say about the strength of Liberia's institutions, and what reforms would be necessary to prevent such networks from taking root again?
So what is needed right now is what we're seeing is a political will from the government will help us to build strong institutions. The institutions are there, but once the political will from the leadership have been lacking, that is where people are taking advantage of, the system, the institution, and the issue of drug trade have been ongoing for years now. So the fact that we have the DEA, we have the police, we have national security institution, and they are there to ensure protection, and they are doing the necessary work to protect and put things under control. I think will reduce the fight, will reduce the importations of drugs. But until we lack political will, Liberia will still be dangling between, and our corridor will still be used for drug trade and trafficking all of the time. So going forward, I think the government need to strengthen cooperation with national and regional groupings, where we will strengthen intelligence and enforcement on the ground. And the institutions on the ground, one, they add, a kind of two-way partnership that will help our institution, because one thing that's also lacking from our institution standpoint as well, in terms of logistics is needed. In terms of training, where we can learn from other countries that have played pivotal role in fighting drugs around the world, can be able to work with the Liberian institution. This is something that will help our country. But as it states right now, the idea of dismantling political influence, political position, and individuals who may be holding high-level position as people who cannot be covered, people who cannot be banned from being accused of being involved with the trade, is something that will help the country, because it will help ordinary people to be very much trustworthy in the system and make sure that the government is moving in the right direction in terms of the whole fight.
All right. Well, on a broader front, as we round off this conversation, Abdullah, how should West African governments manage this issue?
Well, Imo, that's a question I will respond to by borrowing from the words of agencies like UNODC and ECOWAS and the AU, many of them that we've spoken to through their representatives and experts. But it's surely, I'll borrow first from Adama Dempster's word, the political will by government. Yes. And I'd like to add here, from my observation, it's not, how do I say this? Now, just imagining how drug trafficking works isn't because we don't have systems that don't exist, but it's because the systems have been sabotaged. It's not a failure.
Intelligence network being sabotaged.
Yeah. So if you ask me first, I would say political will by our government. Two, we need to, there's need for strengthening of regional intelligence sharing networks among the different government and security agencies at the national, regional, continental level, and of course a global level, right? And they also need to target the networks, not the drugs, because when you target the drugs, you're just looking at the people at the local level who traffic or distribute these drugs to end users. Yes. We need to target the networks, and then we follow the money, because drug trafficking works simultaneously with money laundering. So when you follow the money, you are surely going to get the people and the networks. And of course, I would say this for West Africa in particular, we need to tighten the ports, airports, and maritime surveillance.
Indeed. Abdullah Hassan, Head of News at West Africa Democracy Radio. Thank you so much for your time. And Mr. Adama Dempster, prominent human rights activist there in Monrovia, Liberia. Thank you so much for being a part of the program.
Thank you. Thank you.
And to you out there, thank you too for joining us on this edition of Citizens Hour. This is where we drop the anchor. I am Imo Edet. Do join me again next week for another edition. Well, coming up next in 1 minute now is our midday news. Good afternoon.
I have witnessed so many elections, and I will tell you for a fact that INEC cannot deliver free and fair election.
We need to even unpack what political commitment is.
This April on West Africa Democracy Radio, Citizens Hour goes to the Sahel.
Democracy right now in Mali is an idea that has been rejected.
The Multinational Joint Task Force remains committed to its mandate of creating a safe and secure environment in the Lake Chad areas.
In partnership with the National Endowment for Democracy, NED, your favorite democracy and governance program will focus on Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, and other West African countries, including Benin, Nigeria, the Gambia, and Togo. From comprehensive election coverage to informative investigative pieces, this upcoming season will provide new insights and thought-provoking conversations. Citizens Hour Season 2, in partnership with the National Endowment for Democracy, NED, on West Africa Democracy Radio, 94.9 FM Dakar.